Are you struggling to come up with original content week in and week out? Start a podcast. Interview your ideal clients, let them talk about what they care about most, and never run out of content ideas again. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to B2B Growth, a daily podcast for B2B leaders. We've interviewed names you've probably heard before, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek, but you've probably never heard from the majority of our guests. That's because the bulk of our interviews aren't with professional speakers and authors. Most of our guests are in the trenches leading sales and marketing teams. They're implementing strategy. They're experimenting with tactics. They're building the fastest growing B2B companies in the world. My name is James Carberry. I'm the founder of Sweetfish Media, a podcast agency for B2B brands, and I'm also one of the co-hosts of this show. When we're not interviewing sales and marketing leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of our own business. We'll share the ups and downs of our journey as we attempt to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show.
Welcome back to B2B Growth. I am your host for today's episode, Nikki Ivy with Sweetfish Media. Guys, I've got with me today Meredith Fuller, who is Managing Director of Buyer Engagement at Quarry. Meredith, how you doing today?
I'm doing very well. Thank you very much for this opportunity, Nikki. I'm thrilled to be here.
Yeah, I'm thrilled as well. Guys, we're going to be talking about the death of ABM or the future of all B2B marketing and how those overlap. But before we get to all of that, before we really dig in, Meredith, I would love it if you would just give us all a little bit of background on yourself and what you and the folks at Quarry have been up to these days.
Sure, I'd be happy to. So Quarry is a top-ranking B2B demand marketing firm, and we focus on tech sector clients. We've been in this business for well over 40 years, and I think one of the things that we've always been able to do as an organization is really be on the leading edge of best practices B2B marketing and understanding what are those approaches, technologies, optimal ways to help our clients be successful, meeting all their revenue and organizational imperatives from a marketing support perspective. Myself specifically, I've been with Quarry for over 19 years, and the team that I lead really does focus on that strategy development for those demand marketing campaigns and programs, helping our clients set marketing strategy overall that ladders up to business imperatives. And we have within buyer engagement all the channels available to reach our clients' customers. So that's our inbound channels, our marketing operations and tech channels, our measurement teams, data scientists, etc. So yeah, ABM really is an exciting opportunity for us as an organization, just given our area of focus.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And there's a question in there that I have for something you just said, but we'll come back to it. First, let's just sort of frame this up. Like talk about the overview of why we would be, exploring the death of ABM and sort of the rebirth of B2B marketing, or future of B2B marketing in the same conversation. How are those two related?
Sure, great question. So the death of ABM is perhaps a little bit of a provocative title, given really we're still a little bit at the nascence of account-based overall, I would say. It's much more pervasive now, of course, than it was even 5 years ago. So to already be talking about the death seems probably, provocative. But what I mean by that is that all those tenets, those best practices that really underpin account-based, what really makes account-based a differentiated marketing approach than perhaps what we've done traditionally from a demand gen perspective within the B2B sector, is that all those best practices really are just smart B2B marketing. It's about being focused. It's about being integrated. It's about using technology to help be as efficient as possible, but also deliver as much sort of meaningful valuable engagements as possible. It's about bringing sales and marketing together, which of course makes imminent sense. So at the heart of it, it's that those underpinnings really of what's brought account-based to the fore in B2B marketers' minds are things that I think are going to endure forever and ever in terms of great B2B marketing overall.
For sure. And it's like, I think that folks, before we started calling it or talking about ABM and before some of the software that we're going to talk about, the technology that we're going to talk about here in a minute arrived, I think folks understood this concept that, that there's this relationship here, but our processes didn't recognize that, right? You have this, tradition of literally in our systems that we work in, right? Marketers and salespeople not being on the same page, right?
You're right.
So we're going for the same goal. We're talking about the same accounts, but one of us is looking at it, in a totally different view, as I said, a different page literally in your CRM than the marketing team or than the other team. And that's sort of, I think, what made it slower to come around, even though we've understood that these things are related. What are some other reasons you think that, we're only just now starting to, or in the last 5 years, starting to talk about this?
Sure. So I think you touched on it when you talked about goals and alignment around goals. And I actually think that's been the biggest driver of account base. And then what's happened is that groundswell has sort of been underpinned now by terrific technologies and processes, to your point, that perhaps we didn't have previously. So having alignment on goals between marketing and sales and getting everybody rallying around the fact that, hey, we are looking to drive pipeline, we're looking to drive conversations and engagement with high quality accounts, moving away from that particularly marketing bent focus on quantity of accounts or quantity of leads previously. I think that goal alignment with sales really has been sort of the North Star that then all these workflows, processes and technologies have now actually been developed to support. So, now thanks to technologies, things like intent technologies, predictive technologies, our ability to personalize, our ability to track engagement and behaviors really all the way through the funnel like we never were before. All these things, I think, really have sort of just come together to bring what previously maybe had been some account-targeted marketing. Lots of B2B organizations have, key accounts or premier accounts or those accounts that sales is most focused on that marketing has helped support it. But now we're able to do it in such a smarter, more effective, and more efficient manner.
Yeah, exactly that, right? So what we thought we wanted as salespeople, I come from a SaaS sales background, we thought we wanted as salespeople and what we were, asking for a lot of the time was, especially in sales leadership, right? More leads, more leads, more leads. But what we wanted was more targeted leads. Right. And the difference there, right?
Leads.
Exactly. The shift from, especially in what marketing was asked to do in the first place, right? By salespeople, this shift from quantity to quality, I think you're right, is at the heart of why, we're going to continue to see more adoption here. And, that's the next thing I want to talk to you about. There are some businesses who firmly believe, right, like, this isn't for us. ABM isn't for us. We're going to keep doing things the same way that we've been doing them. But you and I were talking offline about the fact that because it essentially just is B2B well executed, B2B marketing well executed, it's kind of for everybody. Talk about that for a little bit for us.
Sure, absolutely. So I wholeheartedly believe it is for everybody because, again, it comes back to it's smart marketing. It's about being really thoughtful and considerate about the accounts you're targeting and why you're targeting them. It's about being very mindful about regarding who you're actually reaching at those accounts. So not just looking at a single individual decision maker, but really trying to provide coverage across those accounts in terms of that B2B buying decision group or B2B sort of buying syndicate, if you will. So, to me, the opportunity for every B2B business absolutely is there. And you can certainly dip your toe into account base without having, every marketing technology there is available. And that's something we've certainly worked with our clients on, is that crawl, walk, run approach. So, marketing folks, what we're often seeing in the industry, are really excited about account based, but perhaps they don't have the budgets quite yet, for example, or perhaps even they don't have the bandwidth to adopt full scale account based. They're a small marketing team. There's still lots of things or lots of ways that you can start to adopt an account based approach without having all the dollars at your disposal, without having a dedicated ABM marketing team. So, I'd highly recommend folks, get in touch with folks who've already been there and done it, get in touch with marketing firms such as ours to understand how can you start to move down that account-based path, because I do think it is time and dollars very well spent. And a lot of the analysis done by third-party analysts support the fact that B2B really, or ABM, is so effective.
Today's growth story centers around Exactly, a SaaS company that helps enterprise companies with their incentive compensation. They'd worked with search marketing agencies in the past, but they'd had issues with transparency and ROI. They wanted to improve net new leads via their organic and paid search channels, so they reached out to Directive. Optimizing search engine market share for Exactly was the top priority. Directive did this by improving search engine visibility for target audiences at the bottom of the funnel. In order to generate qualified leads, they focused on value-driven content on relevant, winnable terms, landing page testing on PPC platforms, and a laser focus on third-party directory optimization, specifically Capterra. Directive grew sales accepted lead volume by 100%, increased Capterra conversion volume by 336%, and boosted pre-qualified clicks to Capterra by 39%. If you're looking for results like this with your search engine marketing, there's a good chance Directive can help. Visit directiveconsulting.com and get a free customized proposal. All right, let's get back to the show.
Yeah, that's interesting. I want to make sure that I ask this question for our listeners, those folks who may be those small teams with, more restrictive budgets, but that want to, kind of get the most of it. Can you talk about what a sort of lean, bare bones tech stack looks like for folks wanting to try this out?
Sure. Great question. So I think the two sort of foundational and fundamental technologies really to support an account-based approach are going to be what most B2B organizations would have, and that would be a CRM and a marketing automation platform. The CRM, of course, really is to be able to capture the data and the interactions with those folks at those key accounts, and having an opportunity for marketing actually to have access to the CRM and see what sales is capturing, and sales to really be capturing all their engagements with the CRM. That's a critical point of understanding your success within account-based. And then a marketing automation platform, because very typically, an e-nurture element is going to be part of a multi-touch account-based campaign. So those would be your foundational technologies. Then there are so many technologies that can be accessed, whether through ourselves as a marketing firm, we have technology partners that our clients can access, or whether it's directly with technology vendors. At the front end, just being smart about which accounts you're targeting by trying to employ either intent or predictive technologies. Again, you don't have to invest hundreds of thousands to still get some of that data and intelligence that really will allow you to be smarter about who you're targeting from an account-based perspective.
For sure. So glad that you laid that out, because that was one of the things that I had sort of been thinking about as I was reading about the subject and thinking about this conversation. So thank you. And Meredith, now that I have successfully picked your brain and seen what I could get out of it, it is time for you to tell us about what you're putting in it. Talk to us about a learning resource or something that you've been engaging with here recently that is, informing your approach or just got you excited these days.
Sure. So, I think anybody who follows account-based really recognizes that Sangram Varjay is such a leader in this field, and his Flip My Funnel podcast, I would highly recommend as a great source of account-based intelligence. He has interviewed such a wide range of folks within the field. So, practitioners sort of down into sort of the nitty-gritty of account-based, to analysts who have sort of that bigger sort of account-based theory perspective, client side, agency side. There's just such a wealth of information there, and podcasts to me are such a terrific way to get your information, because you can easily be listening to those, during your everyday, during your commute, while you're working on other things. So that's probably one of the key resources I would recommend folks to check out, whether they're really just new to account-based or whether they're longtime practitioners. There's always a wealth of information there.
For sure. Thank you so much. We love Sangram around here. So never mind a plug on that Flip My Funnel podcast for sure. I know that, Meredith, folks just like me who's been listening to the way you talk about this and understanding, the expertise and the knowledge that you have behind this are going to want to keep up with you. Tell us how folks can connect with you.
Sure. Absolutely. I mean, I am on LinkedIn. So Meredith Fuller at Quarry, that's easy to find me on LinkedIn. And then if they want to reach out directly, my email is mfuller@quarry.com. So that's MFULLER@QUARRY.com. And yeah, I'd love to hear what people think, the questions they have. I really, appreciate this opportunity.
Thanks so much, Meredith.
Great. Have a nice day, Nikki.
We totally get it. We publish a ton of content on this podcast, and it can be a lot to keep up with. That's why we've started the B2B Growth Big Three, a no-fluff email that boils down our 3 biggest takeaways from an entire week of episodes. Sign up today at sweetfishmedia.com/big3. That's sweetfishmedia.com/big3.